surround yourself with people that make you happy, not just things. And I think that is also a big aspect of inspiring other people as well, because you always hear like surround yourself with things that make you happy, but it's also people too. If you keep having toxic people around you, but you're reading a good book, it doesn't matter. The toxic's gonna outweigh that. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Millennial Girls Podcast. I'm Racquel and
I'm Natasha.
And if you guys are just new here, have stumbled upon the Millennial Girls Podcast, welcome. It's a fun place. We're all about kind of being a mess, but also kind of getting our life together, being millennials and dealing with all of the stuff that us millennials deal with. Anxiety, mental health. That's a lot of what we talk about.
Oh, I was like, I was on a roll there. I was listening to you, Racquel.
Music, makeup. I mean, we cover it all here, but today is going to be a really fun episode. Before we get into that, though, I have to remind you guys to go check us out on Apple Podcasts. Give us that 5-star review. It does help with the algorithm and finding people. So go do it. But today we have a really exciting guest. Wow, I could talk today. Her name is Brittney Megann, and she actually is a badass. She has her own podcast called the Social Babes Podcast. And we're just going to bring her in because she has a lot to say, and I'm excited. Welcome.
Welcome.
Hey. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
First of all, I'm obsessed with your pink headphones. We were actually a guest on hers as well. We recorded our episode before this, and I was staring at her pink headphones the whole time. So now I have to literally be like, where did you get them?
Thank you. Honestly, it's so funny. They're actually like 7 years old. I got them when I was literally in high school. And they're like, do you guys see the little puma?
Oh, yes. Yes. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're not watching on YouTube, she has like these hot pink headphones with the Puma logo on them, and we're obsessed.
How do you still have working headphones? I cannot. First of all, I'm really bad with like technology, as most of us know here. Natasha's all about that life.
Wait,
I can barely get my AirPods to connect to my computer.
Okay, we know that things are not time sensitive here, but at one point we did record something in slow-mo, Racquel.
Oh yeah, we did. Brittney, did you see that? I accidentally recorded a whole video in slow-mo. We posted it on social media.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I didn't know I hit the slow-mo button, okay? And we went to watch it back, and it was like Dory in Finding Nemo.
Yeah,
yeah, that's Racquel with technology.
Died.
Yeah, we're lucky I can like literally get my AirPods to connect to my phone. Anyway, it's okay. That's why I have Natasha. That's what we're here for. It's fine. Brittney, so you have a dope brand, and everything about it we love. It's pink and it's inspiring and everything we would want in our lives. How did you start your brand?
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you for saying this. I honestly am such a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. And when it comes to Social Babes Co., honestly, for those of you guys who don't know me yet or haven't taken a look at my profile yet, I run a social media agency called Socials and Stilettos, and I've been doing this for 5 years now. And through COVID, I actually noticed that a lot of my clients were feeling super disconnected, and they were feeling like they just didn't have anyone to turn to. So launched the podcast, started as the Socials and Stilettos podcast, and within 3 episodes, I realized that there was like a need for a community for women in business. So fast forward, change the name up on the podcast, like literally like an epiphany one day in my sleep, the term social babe came into my head, and I was like, this was meant to be. So change the name of the podcast to Hey Social Babes, because that's something I said every single day on Instagram stories to my audience. I was always saying, hey, Social Babes, how's it going today? And it clicked. So launched the podcast. Fast forward to September of last year, we actually transitioned the podcast into a full-blown community. And the inspiration behind it was totally like, not going to lie, Elle Woods, Legally Blonde.
Yes.
That is my SHIT. I love her and always wanted to be part of a sorority and have those sisterhood kind of vibes. So that's kind of what inspired the community.
We love a good rebrand. Sometimes you need a rebrand. We talked about it. We've talked about it before. You know, we kind of, when we started this podcast, we were really wanted to bring what we did on the radio to the podcast. And then we were like, people don't necessarily care or are not that interested. And then when we did the self-love episode with Chelsea Briggs, that's when this kind of really took direction for the podcast. So, I mean, again, growing pains, you're gonna figure it out. And everything you do, it could be in your marketing job or in your sales job or a podcast, you're gonna have those growing pains until you figure out, like, okay, this is where we want to sit. This is the pocket we want to be in. But I want to talk to you a little bit about being each other's hype girls and women really supporting women, especially in this podcast space. Because whenever me and Natasha are on different podcasts, everyone is always like, oh my God, how's it like working with another girl or another female, another woman? And we always kind of are taken aback. Like the first time it happened, we were kind of like, oh, this is a weird question, but I guess. And then it kept getting asked. And we every single time we'd be like, why is this a thing? And we would kind of go back over and be like, I mean, I guess people don't have, like, girls don't have the best reputation of working with one another because women are bitchy and this and jealous. But I mean, we're not like that and you're not like that. So why do you think it's so important to kind of build this community and find other people?
Yes, I love this question. And I want to say, like, you two are the definition of each other's hype girl. Like, even just talking to you guys over on the Hey Social Babes podcast, I was like, okay, honestly, like, everybody needs a best friend like this. Like, you are each other's hype girl. And I love that energy so much. I feel like one thing that a lot of women, like, especially like who don't focus on their mindset, and this is something that you guys are going to hear me say a lot, is like focusing on your mindset and really like taking a look at yourself and why you feel certain ways about other women in this space, right? I feel like a lot of people, we grow up to think that other people are our competition, or that if somebody's good at something or somebody's succeeding, that there's no room for us. And that's not true at all. So personally, I think that people who are struggling with like finding their own hype girl energy probably are coming from like a place of not really loving themselves first and not really seeing how important and how valuable they are, that they feel like because they don't see that in themselves, they can't see it in someone else.
And that's one thing that I've noticed, especially recently, is I've been watching a lot of films. I watched Firefly Lane, the show that Katherine Heigl did on Netflix, and I'm loving it. And if any of you haven't seen it yet, you have to watch it. But it was trending on Netflix some weeks ago. And so I was like, okay, let me pop in and watch. Of course, I thought it was a movie and it's a TV show, another one. But I loved it because it was these two best friends that they met, you know, when they were in high school and dealing with the bullying and dealing with, you know, one being popular, one not. And, you know, they kind of just, you know, transformed their relationship into something special that was almost something that you kind of wished you had and then you didn't really have, like it wasn't the reality. But I'm sure it was for a lot of people. I know in my case, yeah, there might have been people, you know, when I was younger that I wished that I was friends with, and it didn't turn out that way because, you know, they were more popular than I was or prettier than I was or whatever. But after watching that show, it kind of got me into this mode of like community, because I started watching other films, like old stuff like Steel Magnolias. I think we had Roderick, the viral TikTok guy that does all the millennial content. He had said it on the episode, and I think it kind of sat with me, and I had never seen it. And it's a movie with like Dolly Parton and just a bunch of other, I think Julia Roberts, a bunch of other famous people from like 1989. And I had never seen it. And it's just like all these women coming together, and it was inspiring for me. You had actually asked us on your podcast, like what inspires me. And that's something too, is just that community where I think we've been all raised in this, you know, lifestyle, this American lifestyle of like being so independent and being able to do things on your own. And I kind of feel like we need to stray away from that. And I almost feel like COVID helped us kind of all reconnect and, you know, find the value in that. And so I want to ask you, now that you've started creating that community, how has that impacted your life, and how have you impacted others' lives for creating something like that?
Yes, I love this. And I want to like piggyback on what you were saying for a second, Natasha, because 100%, I think millennials specifically, like we grew up in an era where everyone kind of looked at each other as competition. If you see like Gen Zers now, a lot of them are supporting uplifting. They're like, you do you, you're unique, you're amazing. And that's the kind of energy that they're getting in schools. But like I don't know about you, but I didn't get that. I didn't get that at all when I was growing up. So I think now coming from this space with Social Babes Co. that we've created this, uplifting and inspiring place for women to just like be each other's hype girls and support and uplift each other. I think what's crazy is when you start caring about someone other than yourself's success as much as you care about your own, things start to happen for you. Like it's almost like the universe is like, yes, this energy is good, and we'll send more opportunities your way, and we'll send more things your way. So, I mean, it's crazy because the amount of women that I've been able to collaborate with and to see grow and flourish is insane. And the amount of messages that we get all the time saying like, we needed something like this because entrepreneurship is freaking hard. Like it's hard, and you need that kind of support to kind of keep you going for sure. Does that kind of answer the question? I feel like I might have like gone off.
No, totally. I think it definitely does. And it's interesting that you brought up being a millennial and growing up and not really having that in school, because when you said that, I was thinking back to it, and it's kind of true. Like I know even I was a competitive dancer as well too. So everything was very cutthroat. And it was like, that person's your competition. That person's always your competition. And even being in the job industry, going on auditions, and that's still how it is. But now that we're in this podcast space, I'm like, okay, who else are we podcasting? I like their stuff. That's my vibe. And I think it goes back to kind of your vibe attracts your tribe. That's what we go, like, that is our mantra, a good vibe tribe. Like, we are all about that. And I mean, it's inspiring. You asked us on your podcast what inspires you. And again, it's the people around me who are doing the damn thing, because them pushing through each day, even though the day might be so hard, and everyone's going through some stuff right now because the world's in a horrible place, but that is so inspiring. And honestly, if I'm having a bad day, if I'm like, I don't want to get up, I don't want to do anything, or if I just have like a nervous breakdown, I look and I talk to my friends. I'm like, what do you do today? How was your day? And that really inspires me to like, okay, I'm going to get up and go on a walk. I'm going to get up and work out. I'm going to get up. I'm going to read. I'm going to watch. I'm going to listen this. I'm going to listen to this. Like, surround yourself with people that make you happy, not just things. And I think that is also a big aspect of inspiring other people as well, because you always hear like, surround yourself with things that make you happy, but it's also people too. If you keep having toxic people around you, but you're reading a good book, it doesn't matter. The toxic's going to outweigh that.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I want to add too, because it's like, something I keep saying in entrepreneurship, because I feel like a lot of us here, like we're doing our own thing. We're building our own brands, right? And you can try to do it on your own, but let me tell you, it is freaking hard. Just like Racquel was just saying, like, you need to be able to have somebody that you can turn to, be like, hey, I'm feeling a little discouraged today. Like, I'm not feeling like the best version of myself, and have that person or that support system or those people that are just going to be like, girl, what you talking about? You are fire. You get up, you do your thing. People need you. You need that kind of hype girl energy. And we all need it. I need it. Right. So having a support system of people that you can turn to is so important.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's the way people speak to you, too. Like, I always say, I'm like, be your own hype girl, be each other's hype girl. But also, there could be that sense of jealousy, too. So, like, let's weed those people out, and you'll see. I mean, listen, I have dealt with, I've had friends who I thought were my hype girls and were going to be in it for the end, and I was going to be bridesmaids in their wedding, and like, that whole thing. And it didn't happen because there was a falling out, and it wasn't necessarily my fault, but that happens. It's going to take some time. You've got to weed through certain people. And unfortunately, that will end with some, friendships that you thought were going to be forever are not. But then you kind of, you move on and you learn from those lessons. And I think that's also something that you have to kind of take into the learning experience, whether it be making a business or whether it be just finding a new friend group too. You're gonna find those bad apples, or even those people's, really, Racquel? You're going to find those people that you thought you jammed with, but you don't. But that's okay. Keep it moving.
Yes.
Put those hater blockers on and you'll be fine. Natasha.
Yes, Racquel.
You know what I'm going to be grabbing to drink this summer, right?
And so am I.
Obviously, we're going to be grabbing Dezo, our amazing drink sponsor, because we like to know what we're drinking. They're very transparent with their ingredients, their products. I mean, they have the cactus water, the watermelon water, the coconut water, and they're not putting like weird things in it.
No,
we have the
literally know what's in it.
antioxidants, gluten-free vodka, depending on which flavor you have, either the prickly pear water, there's watermelon water, they all have Himalayan sea salt, so it's naturally, helping you, nothing new.
And it also has electrolytes, so it's like you're kind of like hydrating yourself at the same time while you're drinking. So I think that's a plus and that's a win, right? But yeah, if you want to find out more information, head over to thefutureofdrinking.com and say that the Millennial Girls referred you. And they do have a new website that's going to be launching very soon, drinkdezo.com, and that's where you can order as many Dezos as you need for all of your pre-gaming for the pool parties this summer, because it is starting to get very warm in Miami.
Very warm and toasty.
If it's still snowing where you live, make sure to just fly out here and you'll have a great time during the summer with us and Dezo.
Yes.
The hater blockers. One thing I was mentioning on your podcast, Brittney, was, I think jealousy is a big factor in things when it comes to us not being able to, well, it's not just jealousy, it's trust issues, I think, as well. So kind of like what Racquel was saying is, a lot of us, of course, I'm sure we've all been burned before, and we've all been burned by another female. And especially when, even in high school, I was listening to an Almost 30 podcast talking about, females supporting other females and how uncommon that is, which is why I guess a lot of people are surprised by the relationship that Racquel and I have been able to hold on to this time. But yeah, they were saying, if you think back to when you were in high school and those moments where you were with other people, maybe you both like the same guy, and maybe you were peer pressured into situations where your friend had to choose you or something else, or vice versa. And those are the breaking points where I think we carry that pain and, disappointment with other females. And that's when a lot of that competition started with our younger selves. And so now, as obviously women and adult women, we have to change the way that is. And I think not only give lessons to our younger selves, hopefully that'll help, the younger generation as well. But like you said, Brittney, too, I mean, with Gen Z, it's like totally different now because we're all accepting and all loving, right? Like, I feel like we're kind of like going back to the 70s of like peace,
hippie
peace
power.
and love. Yeah. Like, we're all like hippies now again. And it's true. Now that you said that, I was thinking back, I was like, every time that we would see like those films of like the nerd, the geek, the jock, the pretty girl, the whatever, all those kind of like stereotypes, I feel like they dated
Categories.
Probably back like in the 80s. It was like 80s, 90s, which is millennial generation. And it's so interesting because I never thought of that until you said that, because in the 70s we were, partly disco, but then hippie before that. So everybody was like peace and love. So it's crazy. And now I'm like, wow, that got me thinking. And to think that that's like a big part of our lives being millennials, and you talking about community and creating that. One thing that I want to ask you is, what have you learned from creating a community? What have you learned from the other people that have joined your community? Because I'm sure at first you were thinking, I might be leading this and, being a part of it, but I'm sure you've learned a lot from the people too.
Yes, 100%. And I want to just say it's so crazy because I think we're always learning. And even though I founded and I lead this community, the amount that I've learned from these women, it's I'm forever grateful. And it's funny because I think the biggest lesson that I learned from these girls is if you feel like other women are competition, it's something within yourself you've got to work on. And I see it. I see when these women come in and they're craving this sisterhood so bad. They're craving this community. They're craving women to kind of be surrounding them. But the thing is that they want it, but they're so afraid to give it. They're afraid that if they give that hype girl energy, if they give that support, that's going to take something away from them. And I feel again, this is totally how we were brought up, because like Racquel was saying, being in dance, looking at other girls as your competition, or even you were just saying, Natasha, just even that energy of the jocks, the this, the that, maybe going after the same guy kind of energy. Right. And that's why I think honestly, if you want hype girl energy, if you want a solid support system of women around you, you've got to be willing to put in the work and change the way that you think of other women. You can't look at other women as your competition. Like, you can't look at other women like they're taking something away from you. If you guys are friends, or if, you guys collaborate on something, and maybe what you're collaborating on for some reason is giving them a little more attention than you can't get offended or upset about that, because what's for you is going to come your way. And if your girl is succeeding at something and, you're feeling intimidated by that, that starts within yourself, and you got to work on that. You got to talk to that inner child of yours that's like, for some reason, feeling intimidated, feeling a little awkward around this person because they're succeeding. You got to talk to her, and you got to be like, girl, why are you feeling this way to begin with? And I promise you, it probably channels back from something, an experience that you had in high school and elementary school when you were younger, and you got the same feeling from another girl that you knew, right? So just finding a way to grow and learn and develop yourself personally so that you stop looking at other women as competition, and it starts from within, for sure.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
That was it.
Again, go to therapy, guys. It helps you with all of these things.
100%. Like, going to therapy, listening to podcasts, like personal development podcasts. Like, one thing that works for me is, like, I go on YouTube every single morning, and I'm like typing in like motivational videos. And a lot of the times it's like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And it's like, you are a beast. Nobody's your competition. You're upset. You do your thing. And it works for me. Hey, like, whatever. But there's so many amazing books. Like, another really, really great one is, I think it's "You Are a Badass" by Jen Sincero. Like, these are great
Yes,
books,
I
right?
love that book.
Yes. Like, do the work, start from within, because if you're feeling any type of way, listen, that other woman, that other girl that you're around or surrounding you, she's not giving you that feeling. You're giving yourself that feeling. So you got to start from within.
What are your favorite books? We always love asking like what everyone's reading right now.
Yes, definitely the "You Are a Badass" by Jen Sincero. Love that one. Also, really, really love "Girl Wash Your Face" by Rachel Hollis. If you guys have not read that,
I read those too.
So good. Those are definitely my top two.
I did Rachel Hollis's 90-day challenge when quarantine first started, and let me tell you, I think it is the only thing that kept me freaking sane. I'm not joking, because every week it would be something. It was like joy, whatever. It kept 90 days we did this, and it made you do like worksheets and actually think about this every day. And honestly, if I didn't do it, I would have, God knows where this podcast would have been. But it definitely helped. Those books, I've actually read both of those books. Definitely
They're
love
definitely
those books.
good.
Yeah, and of course we always love "The Universe Has Your Back." I read that book, and
Yes.
Chelsea Briggs suggested it. I'm gonna read it again because I need to. When I was reading that book, I was just at peace with myself every day, and I was so genuinely happy because it was literally giving you ways to project happiness and love into the universe, and you getting it back. And I was like, I am about this. Let's go. So we'll be reading that book again.
No, totally. And even with a lot of these motivational and self-help books, you have to get yourself to the headspace too. I mean, especially me, I know that I could have more of a negative tendency in my mind, in myself. And so I have to like force myself to get to that headspace before even picking up the book and being able to open that page too. It's not always, oh, okay, I was recommended this. Now let me get it and let me read it. Like a lot of times, like I'm like not in the mood. Like I've even opened up some of these books before, like years ago, and I just couldn't. And then I've got to revisit them. And then I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Like I'm ready to receive. I feel like that's a huge lesson in all this. Like kind of like along with what you were saying, Brittney, too, is like being open, being ready to receive. I feel like that's the only way for you to really have kind of like this whole, female empowerment community and just anything in your life, really. If you want any of that positivity, any of the abundance that comes with it, you have to be open and just open-minded, I think, is the biggest part, and ready to receive.
100%.
One question I want to ask is, so did you ever face any of these like obstacles that we were saying, like from the stereotypes and stuff in high school, or maybe feeling very independent or maybe very lonely, where you were like, I want this community, I need this community, and you didn't know what to do, where to go, who to talk to?
100%. And I love that you asked me this because I was going to talk about it before and then we ended up moving on topics. So I'm like, yes, this is what I wanted to say because 100%, like, listen, when I was in high school, like I was bullied. I was not popular. I didn't have very many friends. I had one girlfriend. I went through a lot. Like my high school journey was crazy. I always looked at other girls as competition. I felt like I wasn't good enough, right? So all of these things, 100%, and moving into like adulthood. I remember when I first started like in this entrepreneurial space, I stepped into network marketing and I used to look at all the girls like they were literally my competition. And honestly, like let me tell you, and this is that aha moment for me was I quickly realized when I was the only girl that wasn't getting invited to things that it wasn't because of them. It was because of me. It was because of the energy I was bringing. And it was because nobody freaking wants that. Listen, like if you're going to be somebody that's constantly bringing the group down, if you're going to be somebody that's, super negative or is constantly like salty because of your own issues, like nobody wants to be around that. So 100%. And listen, like this is when I really started my personal development journey. I was like 18 years old, right? And starting this personal development journey. And I had to learn quick. And let me tell you, it was like a lot of crying. It was a lot of like reading these books and me sitting there like, oh shit, like I've really effed up, right? And it took a lot of like apologizing too, like going and being like, hey, I'm sorry, right? And that's okay. Like you got to learn and grow and you got to be willing to accept change and accept growth, right? Because we're always growing. And the one thing that I want to say is if you need to go and apologize to somebody so that you can continue your journey of growth, do it because you'll sleep better at night. You'll be able to let go of it. Yes. And who knows, you might even become friends with that person after.
Yes. I 2000% agree with this because I literally just went through this very recently. So a friend of mine, long-term, and I've had this with many friendships, where they've been on and off. And I always wondered, is it them? Is it me? I wasn't really sure. And now that I've just turned 30 and I'm still going through some of these growing pains, I'm like, okay, clearly I've got an issue that's got to be resolved because something is going on here. What is this? Because, I've been blocked by one girl, two girls, three girls, four. And I'm like, what am I doing that's getting people to this place? And I'm not saying that, did I have the best friend choice? Maybe not, maybe some of those people were not meant to be in my life either. But of course I'm going to, victimize myself or feel sorry for myself and feel like, wow, like what did I do wrong or what happened, And then most of the time you kind of just brush it off or maybe you want to, sorry, not sorry, but like talk shit because you're in pain, you hurt that your friend
like
doesn't want to be friends with you anymore. Right. And not just friends. I mean, anyone, this could be family members too, but yeah. And so now going through this again at 30, where like somebody was like, they didn't want me in their life anymore. And I think certain things that were brought to my attention through other friends, I guess they were like the funnel to me. I was like, you know what? Whatever she is bringing to light is true. What she's saying is true. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to put my defenses up and be like, oh my God, F her. I'm open to receiving. And I'm like, okay, she's right. I get her. I could maybe try to prove her wrong in some things, but it's not worth my energy. And for what? What's the ultimate goal in that? And at that point I was like, okay, I got to look within and I got to figure out what's happening here, because if I'm having this effect on another person, clearly something is off. And I'm in my moment right now where I've been reading, I've been doing some exercises. A friend of mine, years ago had given me this old book called Keeping the Love You Find. And it asks you a lot of just very, very personal questions. Yes, it's in relation to, your exes and maybe a current relationship that you might have. And it kind of makes you go back and like really heal some of that stuff. And it could pertain to anything, right? So I've been using that as a tool and it's asking me these questions and I'm like, God, like, I don't know what the answer is. Like when you ask me, like, what's your biggest inspiration? I'm like, what is the thing that makes you the happiest? I'm like, okay, now we've got to like sit, take the time for me, answer these questions, and then hopefully, figure out what it is that you want in your life. Because like you said, some of these people can reappear into your life and they have many times. And I even asked myself, do I want this person in my life now that this has happened? And I'm like, knowing her nature, probably not, but I don't want to knock it because I'm like, at the end of the day too, I could see her in like a year or 2 years coming back and I'd be like, hey, you know, like kind of like all forgotten.
Right.
So I just wanted to share my experience too, because it was the same thing. I had that same, maybe not invited to the parties, but it was, you know, the rejection in another way.
Yeah.
It's all about learning too. And it's like, do you want that toxicity in your life again too? I mean, because obviously there's two sides of the story, right? There's the receiving end. So if this person thinks that you did something wrong. And I mean, I'm so proud of Natasha because she's, you know, we've talked about stuff and I'm like, no girl, you do you are working on yourself. I'm so proud of you because again, being the hype girl that I am, you've got to also, you can't be also always putting yourself down because there is the person on the other end who needs to, you know, I'm sure work on themselves. They're going through some stuff, but I feel like there's also a lot of the times with girls, it's like, you're not necessarily being mean to each other, but it's like that toxic situation is just happening to each other. It's so strange. I don't know how to explain it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like each of you battling your own things.
Yeah, and then it's like, well, this hurt me and you hurt you. And then it's like, I feel like everyone just needs, again, let's take a deep breath, everyone.
Right.
And like,
I agree.
see if you really want that in your life.
I agree 100% with what Racquel was saying. And I wanted to say, I think that a lot of the times when we kind of feel a certain way about somebody else, that it's often a reflection of like something we've got going on.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, everyone just needs to go to therapy. That's what it boils down to. Like, everyone
100%.
take a good old deep look inside, see what's going on, and I feel like self-development, you know, you talk a lot about it, Brittney, and it's so true. Like, therapy is self-development, reading is self-development. We talk about this all the time. It's like what you consume is self-development. It all affects your brain, whether you realize it or not. It totally subconsciously is peeking around in there, and it's coming out in everyday life. So,
100%.
I mean, you just got to work on yourself, right?
For sure. And I think that, you know, everyone consumes like their self-development differently. So like some people, podcasts are great. Some people like they need to actually speak to somebody like a therapist. I feel like we're all like saying you need a therapist here because everyone needs a therapist. And I feel like that. But there's like literally you just got to find what works for you, whether it be a book, a podcast, a video, you know, talking to somebody like a therapist, music, right? Like there's so many different things, meditation, whatever it is that works for you and that allows you to kind of reflect and grow. That's the whole purpose.
And aside from talking about building the community and having hype girls, be your own hype girl too. And
Yes.
really, I think focus on, you know, I feel so cliche saying this. I feel like I had a better way to say this before, but I forgot. I was going to say just loving yourself, you know, like
Yes.
really having compassion for yourself. I think that's what I was trying to say. I felt like loving yourself is just too cliche. But
Give
yeah,
yourself-
have compassion for yourself and really like when we were talking about some of the issues that we've, you know, dealt with in high school, even up till now, like I was saying, you know, don't be so hard on yourself. I feel like that was what Racquel was trying to tell me. And I feel like other friends tell me too, you know, just because, you know, you tripped along the way, it's not the end of the world. And as Racquel has been saying lately, things could be worse. So
It could be worse. They could always be worse. And at the end of the day, if you're not your own hype girl, I always say this, no one else is going to be. So
true.
even if you have a PR, a manager, an agent, like you got to be your own hype girl. Totally.
100%. Like give yourself the love that you give so freely to others. Don't be afraid to like take the time for yourself. And, you know, it's great to have a support system, but like at the end of the day, like who do you go to sleep with? It's yourself, maybe your partner too, but like ultimately, like you're in your own thoughts. And I don't know about you guys, but like my boyfriend, Jake, like when I go to sleep, like there's sometimes that like he's passed out, but I'm still awake and all I'm listening to are my own thoughts. So you got to love yourself and be able to, you know, be your own best friend at the same time, because listen, like it's going to be a hard life if you're not.
Oh my God, 100%. And Brittney, where can everyone find you if they want to be a part of your girl gang?
Yes, my girl gang, everyone's welcome. You can sit with us. And
Yes.
you can find me at Brittney Megann on every platform. And if you're looking for the community, we're just at Social Babes Co.
Guys, I love it. Definitely go follow her. She's so inspiring. Brittney, you're so amazing, incredible. And thank you for having us on your podcast as well. We love being a part of this growing community of millennial entrepreneurs and podcasters and just badass women who are trying to, make it in life and have an impact for sure and be inspiring. So you guys, you know what to do. Leave that 5-star review. You can check out the podcast everywhere on Instagram at millennial_girls, on YouTube, ring the bell, subscribe. Literally wherever you consume your podcast, that's where we're on. LinkedIn, you can check us out on LinkedIn as well. Follow our personals. I'm at Racquel Goldy.
And I'm at Natasha Salehi.
And you know what we always say, guys. Peace, love, and unicorns.
Peace, love, and unicorns.
We will see you guys next time. Bye.